Hello and good afternoon. I think it seems everything okay to me. Seems we're live and online. Can you hear? Because I'm not having that other microphone connected because it's always somewhat in the way. Can you hear me okay? Well, if there's no complaint about it, I leave it as it is. Otherwise, I tried this time to put some microphone and ear. How do you say ear? Not ear pots or something. I don't know how they are called. Well, okay. Thank you for the comment. Great. So another Wednesday afternoon for us here in Germany, uh, in the Allgäu, where we live in our monastery, Anenja Vihara. There's snow already. We had about earbuds. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So this Wednesday, I thought I'm going to talk about a little bit, because this is practice too, and we agreed upon talking about practice. This Wednesday, I would like to talk about the jhanas, because that is what we are practicing here in Anenja. Greetings to Ireland from Germany, and greetings to everywhere, wherever you are. So, yes, as I said, we are going to talk a little bit about the jhanas. I'm going to read suttas of the, what did I choose finally? Of the Anguttara Nikaya, right? Of the nine, the book of the nines. And here at Anenja Vihara, we presently, since we do have probably another lockdown due to COVID coming, and had to cancel some visitors. And so we're among ourselves. So for those who do not know, there are presently 6 nuns. One of us is not here. She's in Cambodia. She's of Cambodian origin and stays there for some month. But still, we are 6 nuns and 2 lay people. Tomorrow it's 3 lay people, because one was taking the robes only temporarily. So since we are among ourselves here in the monastery, we have time to really go deep into the meditation. And although I am strictly a Vipassana defender and strictly a Vipassana practitioner, we can't get around the jhanas. We can't get around concentration and those deep mind states that are conducive to insights, conducive to any other kind of meditative practice, conducive and preparatory for enlightenment. So there is no way around the jhanas. This is why we have to put some attention on it. My teacher, Ajahn Tong and Ajahn Supan, they won't even talk about the jhanas. They are of that kind of teachers, and I understand why. because you can get, not you get, but you can get very, very fascinated with the jhanas and with the things that can happen by the jhanas, through the jhanas, and because of the jhanas. Later, could you explain giving up the robes? Yes. Later, Buddha Ruchi, I might forget, so I'm answering this question now. So because I mentioned one is giving up the robes, she was here for 6 weeks. She's a lay woman and a lay supporter of our monastery since I came here, and has accompanied us, and she has now entered in her lay life the state of retiree. So she doesn't have to work anymore, but she does many things in her spare time. And she's also an MBSR teacher. And she wanted to take on the robes of an anagarika, or Meichi, as they are called in Thailand, for 6 weeks. So she did that. I gave her the opportunity to do just that, to be a nun with 8 precepts for 6 weeks. And those 6 weeks are over tomorrow. So that is why she is giving up the robes. Otherwise, I wouldn't let her. I don't know, because yes, it's somewhat of a disgrace everywhere in the world. In Thailand, not so much, to be honest, because there it is possible, far more possible for monks and women who take on the robes to take the robes and give them up again, just temporarily. But once you say, I want to be a monk or a nun for life, and then you give them up, that's a total disgrace. And that is, yes, as the Buddha says in some, for me it feels like that person is kind of dying, or it's, yeah, tragic, dramatic, as I feel it. So, hi, Venerable. How does Okay, that is a very important question. Let me please remind me when we are at the end of the hour, because I think I should now continue with what we started with the jhanas, and most probably they are somewhat of an answer to that question also. Yeah. Okay, so the jhanas, as I said, they are important, and if we want to getting closer to enlightenment or have some insights, we can't get around those jhanas. They are important. And I mentioned that my teachers, other Ajahn Tong and Ajahn Supan, they wouldn't even mention them. And the reason for that is because you can be so fascinated with what you can experience when jhanas really happens. And it's important to understand that the fascination can ruin them, can ruin our total path, can ruin everything, can ruin even the jhana themselves. And also we can get stuck. So that is the reason why some teachers do not really talk about the jhanas, although they of course admit, when you talk to them, that you must go through them, not through all of them, that is not necessary. You don't have to know and have mastered all 8 jhanas to get to the 9th state, that state without perception and feeling, which is nibbana. But we're coming to that. I'm going to read about this. So it would be enough to have developed one jhana and then go straight ahead. But of course, it would be much better and a much smoother way to enlightenment if you, for example, develop 4 jhanas or jump right straight to enlightenment from the 4th jhana. Okay, but before talking much more, I'm going to read now. It's the Anguttara Nikaya in the Book of Nines, the great chapter, number 32 and 33. I'm going to read both, I think. Dwellings. They are both called dwellings. Bhikkhus, there are these 9 progressive dwellings. What 9? Here, secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the 1st jhana, which consists of rapture and pleasure born of seclusion, accompanied by thought and examination. With the subsiding of thought and examination, he enters and dwells in the 2nd jhana, which has internal placidity and unification of mind and consists of rapture and pleasure born of concentration. Without thought and examination, with the fading away as well of rapture, he dwells equanimous and mindful, and clearly comprehending, he experiences pleasure with the body. He enters and dwells in the 3rd jhana, of which the noble ones declare he is equanimous, mindful, one who dwells happily. With the abandoning of pleasures and pain, and with the previous passing away of joy and dejection, he enters and dwells in the 4th jhana, neither painful nor pleasant, which has purification of mindfulness by equanimity. With the complete surmounting of perceptions of forms, with the passing away of perceptions of sensory impingement, with the non-attention of perceptions of diversity, perceiving space is infinite, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the base of infinite space. By completely surmounting the base of infinite space, perceiving consciousness is infinite, he enters and dwells in the base of infinite consciousness. By completely surmounting the base of the infinity of consciousness, perceiving there is nothing, he enters and dwells in the base of nothingness. By completely surmounting the base of nothingness, he enters and dwells in the base of neither perception nor non-perception. By completely surmounting the base of neither perception nor non-perception, he enters and dwells in the cessation of perception and feeling. These bhikkhus are the 9 progressive dwellings. In some places or some sutta, this list of 9 are called the 8 jhanas and the one thing beyond. So now I'm going a little bit on with number 32 in the Book of Nines of the Anguttara Nikaya. And there it's Igor. I was thinking of reading that book, that sutta. And I'm going to read that certainly another time. It's, as far as I remember, Majjhima Nikaya number 119, where this simile occurs. And this is just meaning that the mind is drenched and needed, like there's no powder and water separated, but the water is really kneaded in the soap powder so that it becomes one mass, one ball. And so is the mind kneaded and drenched with the object. Okay, but that was just again another interference. I shouldn't get so easily distracted, but just continue reading with what I just mentioned I would read. So Anguttara Nikaya, the Book of Nines, number 32. Have I read now? Number 33. Dwellings, number 2. Bhikkhus, I will teach the attainment of these 9 progressive dwellings. Listen. And what, bhikkhus, is the attainment of the 9 progressive dwellings? I say of that state where sensual pleasures cease, and of those who dwell having thoroughly ended sensual pleasures. Surely those venerable ones are hungerless and quenched. They have crossed over and gone beyond in that particular respect. If anyone should say, where do sensual pleasures cease? And who are those that dwell having thoroughly ended sensual pleasures? I do not know this. I do not see this. He should be told thus. Here, friend, secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the first jhana, which consists of rapture and pleasure, born of seclusion, accompanied by thought and examination. That is where sensual pleasures cease, and those are the ones who dwell, having thoroughly ended sensual pleasures. Surely, bhikkhus, one who is not crafty or hypocritical should delight and rejoice in this statement, saying, good. Having done so, and having bowed in reverential salutation, he should attend upon them. I say of that state where thought and examination cease, and of those who dwell having thoroughly ended thought and examination, surely those venerable ones are hungerless and quenched. have crossed over and gone beyond in that particular respect. If anyone should say, where do thought and examination cease? And who are those that dwell, having thoroughly ended thought and examination? I do not know this. I do not see this. He should be told, here, friend, with the subsiding of thought and examination, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the second jhana, which has internal placidity and unification of mind, and consists of rapture and pleasure born of concentration, without thought and without examination. That is where thought and examination cease, and those are the ones who dwell, having thoroughly ended thought and examination. Surely, bhikkhus, one who is not crafty or hypocritical should delight and rejoice in this statement, saying, good. Having done so, bowing in reverential salutation, he should attend upon them. I say of that state where rapture ceases, and those who dwell having thoroughly ended rapture, surely those venerable ones are hungerless and quenched, have crossed over and gone beyond in that particular respect. If anyone should say, where does rapture cease? And who are those who dwell having thoroughly ended rapture? I do not know this. I do not see this. He should be told thus. Here, friend, with the fading away as well of rapture, he dwells equanimous and mindful and clearly comprehending, he experiences pleasure with the body. He enters and dwells in the third jhana, of which the noble ones declare he is equanimous, mindful, one who dwells happily. That is where rapture ceases, and those ones who dwell having thoroughly ended rapture. Surely, bhikkhus, one who is not crafty or hypocritical should delight and rejoice in this statement, saying, good. Having done so, bowing in reverential salutation, he should attend upon them. I say of that state where the pleasure connected with equanimity ceases, and of those who dwell, having thoroughly ended the pleasure connected with equanimity, surely those venerable ones are hungerless and quenched, have crossed over and gone beyond in that particular respect. If anyone should say, where does the pleasure connected with equanimity cease? And who are those that dwell, having thoroughly ended the pleasure connected with equanimity? I do not know this. I do not see this. He should be told, here, friend, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, a bhikkhu and with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous passing away of joy and dejection, he enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, neither painful nor pleasant, which has purification of mindfulness by equanimity. That is where the pleasure connected with equanimity ceases, and those are the ones who dwell, having thoroughly ended the pleasure connected with equanimity. Surely, bhikkhus, one who is not crafty or hypocritical should delight and rejoice in this statement, saying, "Good." Having done so, bowing in reverential salutation, he should attend upon them. I say of that state where perceptions of forms cease, and those who dwell having thoroughly ended perceptions of forms, surely those venerable ones are hungerless and quenched, have crossed over and gone beyond in that particular respect. If anyone should say, "I do not know this, I do not see this," he should be told, "Here, friend, with a complete surmounting of perception of forms, with a passing away of perceptions of sensory impingement, with non-attention of perceptions of diversity, perceiving space is infinite. A bhikkhu enters and dwells in the base of the infinity of space. That is where the perceptions of form cease, and those are the ones who dwell, having thoroughly ended perceptions of forms. I say of that state where the perception of the base of infinity of space ceases, and those who dwell having thoroughly ended the perception of the base of the infinity of space, surely those venerable ones are hungerless and quenched, have crossed over and gone beyond in that particular respect. If anyone should say, "Where does the perception of the infinity of space cease, and who are those that dwell in the infinity of space?" I do not know this, I do not see this, he should be told, "Here, friend, by completely surmounting the base of the infinity of space, perceiving consciousness is infinite, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the base of the infinity of consciousness. That is where the perception of the base of infinity of space ceases, and those are the ones who dwell, having thoroughly ended the perception of the base of the infinity of space. I say of that state where the perception of the base of the infinity of consciousness ceases, and of those who dwell, having thoroughly ended the perception of the base of infinity of consciousness, surely those venerable ones are hungerless and quenched, have crossed over and gone beyond in that particular respect. If anyone should say, "Where does perception of the base of the infinity of consciousness cease, and who are those that dwell, having thoroughly ended the perception of the base of the infinity of consciousness?" I do not know this, I do not see this, he should be told, "Here, friend, by completely surmounting the base of the infinity of consciousness, perceiving there is nothing, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the base of nothingness. That is where the perception of the base of the infinity of consciousness ceases, and those are the ones who dwell, having thoroughly ended the perception of the base of the infinity of consciousness. I say of that state where the perception of the base of nothingness ceases, and of those who dwell having thoroughly ended the perception of the base of nothingness. Surely those venerable ones are hungerless and quenched, have crossed over and gone beyond in that particular respect. If anyone should say, where does the perception of the base of nothingness cease? And who are those that dwell having thoroughly ended the perception of the base of nothingness? I do not know this. I do not see this. He should be told. Here, friend, by completely surmounting the base of nothingness, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the base of neither perception nor non-perception. That is where the perception of the base of nothingness ceases, and those are the ones who dwell, having thoroughly ended the perception of the base of nothingness. Surely, bhikkhus, one who is not crafty or hypocritical should delight and rejoice in this statement, saying, good. Having done so, bowing in reverential salutation, he should attend upon them. I say of that state where the perception of the base of neither perception nor non-perception ceases, and of those who dwell, having thoroughly ended the perception of the base of neither perception nor non-perception. Surely those venerable ones are hungerless and quenched, have crossed over and gone beyond in that particular respect. If anyone should say, where does the perception of the base of neither perception nor non-perception cease? And who are those that dwell, having thoroughly ended the perception of the base of neither perception nor non-perception? I do not know this. I do not see this. He should be told, here, friend, by completely surmounting the base of neither perception nor non-perception, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the cessation of perception and feeling. That is where the perception of the base of neither perception nor non-perception ceases. And those are the ones who dwell, having thoroughly ended the perception of the base of neither perception nor non-perception. Surely, bhikkhus, one who is not crafty or hypocritical should delight and rejoice in this statement, saying, good. Having done so, bowing in reverential salutation, he should attend upon them. This, bhikkhus, is the attainment of 9 progressive dwellings. Okay, that was that. That was the reading part. Okay, I think there are some comments that are not necessarily to be talked about now. Again, I greet those who came a little bit late when I already started. So we are talking about the jhanas, and I read first all those states as they are mentioned regularly, normally in the suttas. This is the short version. There are sometimes somewhat longer versions of the same texts, but the characteristics of those jhanas and the factors are always the same. There's one comment I want to show from Buddha Ruchi. I must admit, I shy away from trying to understand the qualities of the jhanas because that set up expectations in me that affects my concentration. What do you think? Well, I understand your point and it's valid. And in regards to the fascination that I mentioned earlier, it's very, very important not to get into the trap and to become fascinated by what might happen when we are trying to experience the jhanas and the concentration gets higher. And of course, expectations are one of those traps that we can fall into. And the danger is great. You always need a friend with you to remind you, a friend you can listen to and whom you believe that when that friend says, well, look, I think you are going into you have gone into a trap, then you should listen to that friend. And on the other hand, although I really, really do understand what you're talking about and think it's really valid, I must say, when we want to become masters of any meditation practice, when we want to have kind of mastery of the jhanas, then we should know what is going on there, because then we can practice and just let go of it. I think it might help when you are in those states. That is one thing that is also very important to understand. Once you are in those states, you won't think about it. You won't be fascinated about them. You won't fall for your expectations because you are in that jhana, you are in that state. Once you fell for some expectation or for some fascination, then you are already out. You might get in again, but that state, as we have read the first explanation of the first jhana, one is secluded from unwholesome states, and that means we are beyond the hindrances. We have, for one moment, if we are in a jhana for a minute or for 5 seconds, we have for those 5 seconds put away the 5 hindrances. That means we are at that time, and although it might be only 5 seconds, we are separated from our 5 hindrances. There are, in that sense, for this time being, no sensual pleasures that we are falling for. So your expectations could be a hindrances before you get into a jhana. But once you get into them, you don't need to be afraid of them, of expectations, of fascination. And because you really you are away from, you are secluded, you are apart from unwholesome states. You have for the time being done away the five hindrances. And there's so much rapture and joy that of course you could become very fascinated indeed. And of course, then the sensual pleasures set in. You have not learned to concentrate long enough. So what happens is you fall out as you got in to the jhana. It lasts only a brief moment and then you fall out again. So it's kind of flickering, it's not a constant thing. And I think it's better to go this way, to experience those states, even brief, than shying away and not wanting to know about them. The concentration, I would say, you have in the beginning, our concentration, we can look at it two-dimensional. One dimension is the depth of the concentration. And then we have the length. The depth of the concentration is how deep we can absorb. In the beginning, it will only be a brief and superficial entering, a scratching of that state. And by practice, you will be able to experience it deeper and deeper and deeper, and longer and longer and longer. And when it's getting deeper and longer, your concentration will be able to not break away. In the beginning, when we have a normal concentration, like that normal run-of-the-mill person, you hear a sound and you want to look. When your concentration gets stronger, you might hear the sound, but you can resist looking. Then when your concentration is getting even deeper, then you're not having to resist even. You're not interested in looking what was going on there, where the source of the sound came from. And when the concentration is really deep, then you don't hear the sound. Then your sense doors are closed. You don't hear the sound. So, and we need to practice this. We somewhat to be able to get into those states deeper and longer. They have to be practiced. It's like going to the gym. If you want to have muscles, you need training. There's no way around. So this is the same. If you want to have longer and deeper states of absorption, or if you want to have deep insights that are lasting, you need to train and exercise. There's another question interesting in this regard. So, Ayya, our understanding is that we do need the arupa jhana state of mind in order to attain nibbana. Is that correct, Ayya? Not as far as I know. I understand that you need the jhanas, that best is to have the 4 jhanas, that best is to have mastered the 4th jhana, and going from there to the to nibbana. There is one sutta that is in the Samyutta Nikaya. Don't ask me the number now. I don't remember. And I don't even remember the name. It's not Samidhi Sutta, but similar to that. Well, anyways, there is a monk who wants to find out about why the Buddhist monks are so well supported. And he comes as a spy to the Buddha's order and he asks about, so do you have all these attainments? And he happens to meet a group of monks who don't have them, who have just practiced, like as they say in Myanmar or in Thailand, they have the dry they dried in, they jumped in without all the jhanas. So I don't remember exactly how it is called in English. But although they don't have the jhanas and they don't have any attainments like the third eye or the divine ear or seeing past lives or whatever, they don't have any of this, yet they are arahants. So this is one of the reasons, because I have read that sutta, that I would say it's not necessarily to have all the arupa jhanas. But if you are a young person and have time to have mastery of all the 8 jhanas before you get to nibbana, go for it. There's no reason not to. But if you are an elder person and start practicing late, you should choose the way that gets you there. And I think maybe that would not be by the arupa jhanas, but by the 4th jhana. Okay. Okay, yeah. While I was talking, the question has been modified. So we're on the same side. So now Jita asked, in order to become an arahant, we must have the 4th jhana. I would say best you have. Because equanimity is one of the things that helps you going through so many hardships. When you have to, for example, practice nekkhamma, you know, when when the Buddha is talking about his own enlightenment, he speaks about Mara's army. And if you don't have equanimity and Mara's army comes to you while you are practicing to become an arahant, then you're lost. So I would say, yes, best you have, if you have so many merits and so many things prepared already that you can endure these things, these hardships that you necessarily have to go through when you meet Mara's armies, then you might do well without. But I think that would help tremendously. As far as I understand, if you have mastered the first and have that stable, you could already do it. Oh, wait. Oh, yes. Well, also the same for as I said for arahantship is in regards to the non-return. If you want to have that, you have to practice a tremendous amount of nekkhamma parami, and you have to develop and practice so much, and you have to let go of so many things that you will better have some equanimity, some very, very profound equanimity, not only some scratching the surface, but really profound equanimity. Yes, Anicca, yes, Susima Sutta, Samyutta Nikaya 1270. Yes, that is what I mentioned. So, okay, I would like to get back to our suttas. There is another question. Ehrwürdige Schwester. That's so nice. Yes. Joseph has a question. Are you familiar with equanimity based on diversity versus singleness? Well, no, probably not. But something sounds rings a bell. That is, you can practice meditation either one pointed, really, really on one single object, internally or externally. So having that object within yourself as a point somewhere in the body, or a feeling, or a chitta, like metta chitta or something. So that would be one single thing that you practice. And diversity is when you practice, for example, in the method of Ajahn Tong or Mahasi Sayadaw. You have plenty of objects, everything so to say, becomes your object. If there's a sound, that's your object. And you go to that with full concentration. And you attend to it with full concentration. So that could be the difference between them. Was that what you are talking about? This is and of course, yes, then you can certainly, it is far more difficult but possible, by attending to all the objects. Like if you practice the Mahasi Sayadaw method, you attend to a sound, to a thought, to a feeling, to every second there's something you attend to and that you name. But you do it so highly concentrated that you will, for certain, enter into equanimity in the very same way as if you practice that one single object and focus on one single object. It is a longer path. It needs certainly more practice and more dedication, because you don't see results for a long time. But then in the end, you will have the same equanimity. And that would be like, like sitting in the eye of a hurricane. That equanimity, around you the hurricane is going on, but you're sitting in the center, and that is still, absolutely still. So I don't know if that was your question, or if you had a question. Getting back to our jhanas, we just have talked about the first jhana so far, and are 3 minutes away from finishing off. We might not get through all of the jhanas today. It seems that we might talk about them in detail later, next week then. So I won't, sorry for that earthquake. I won't go more into detail about the jhanas now. We keep that for next week, because we also continue to practice with our little objects. We are doing different objects every 2 weeks. So this week and next week we are practicing with the kasinas, with the color kasinas. These are discs, like of that size, can be like this amount, this size, or smaller, or even very small, like the tip of your little finger. And some have chosen the white, some have chosen red. And the week before we started with the breath, focus on the breath. And before that, we did the Zen way. We started with counting from 1 to 10. So we're changing every 2 weeks now. And we'll talk about that another time, maybe next week. Bye bye, everyone. Wish you well.